A.J. Pierzynski is a 2005 World Series champion. He's Fox Sports Major League Baseball game analyst. He's also the host of Foul Territory on X, and he's already got a serious face, so this will be good. Let's just see.
No. You scared me at first because you said three things, and the first one I'm okay with. The second one, I was like, man, if we're going to talk about conservative or what you said, I'm like, you got the wrong guy because James Carville's probably smarter about that than I am. And then three, yes,
you don't want to talk about.
Not really. And then three, can you please give me the $1.13 billion, and I'll find plenty of ways to spend it.
Have you seen, AJ, how many lotto winners lose it? This is what I'm going to talk about at the end of the show. And why can't they keep the money? And so I'm fascinated with how much money actually makes you happy. And then there's these studies that show it's actually very, and this is not for better or for worse, just the way it is. We compare ourselves. So, like, you know, you want to make more than your neighbor, and like more than you want to improve your own standard of living. And so I don't know what goes on with these lotto winners. Maybe they have no history with money. You probably have history with that, AJ. I mean, athletes are notorious for guys that may not have a history of making a lot of money, and then all of a sudden they have a ton, and what goes up comes down real quick after their playing days.
Of course, you stop making it, right? You make a ton real short, right? So you make all this money in like a 10-year span, and then all of a sudden, guess what? You're a former player, and you don't make anything. So, yeah, there's been guys I know that have been taken for money. There's been guys I know that don't keep an eye on their money. They think the money's always going to be rolling in. And listen, I understand to the average person, like $1 million, $2 million is a ton of money. But in the grand scheme of things, when you're only making that money for a 10-year period and it's a very small window, guess what? That money goes away fast when guys are buying, you know, expensive cars, designer outfits, new homes for everybody. It goes quick, and you see it all the time. I mean, heck, there was a 30 for 30 there for a while that, you know, got broke athletes and this and that and all that. And heck, we saw it the other day. Some guy, some big famous name in baseball got taken for a bunch of money. So he says just the other day.
By the way, professional athletes wouldn't be unique there, AJ. Like, everybody thinks that their current situation is going to be the way it always is in the future. I have friends that are in financial management, and they talk about these guys like who think that, oh, I'm making X today, and next year will be X plus 20%, and then, 20 years from now will be X times 2 or whatever it may be. And so there's just no inclination. And we know the stats on this. Like, nobody saves. Like, we're a debt-based society. So it shouldn't be surprising at all. We shouldn't, laugh at pro athletes who think, oh, I'm making $10 million a year, and I'm 32. Of course I'll be making still $10 million a year when I'm 55 and I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah, it works like that because there's a lot of 55-year-old Major League Baseball players running around, right? They're making $10 million a year. If you can name one, please let me know, because I looked all through Baseball Reference. I couldn't find one.
Do you think, AJ, I'm just going to follow my curiosity here. Tom Brady extending his career into his 40s was a little bit mind-blowing for everybody. He way outlived the bell curve. I mean, Max Kellerman was predicting him to go over the cliff for 5 straight years, and he apparently sprouted wings and flew over the cliff. But we're seeing Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer's, I think, is he 40? And he's got injury issues. But you think baseball players start playing a lot longer into their 40s?
No, I don't. I think they're rare exceptions. Listen, I made it till I was 40. I retired at 40, and I was done. Physically, but mentally, just get worn out. I mean, think about Justin Verlander said he wants to be Tom Brady, played till he's 45. Well, he's already got some injuries, right? He had Tommy John. He's got some injuries this spring that are keeping him down. Scherzer's at 40. He's got some injuries. It just doesn't happen. It's a young man's game now. It's a young man's sport because, one, the travel wears you out. The media wears you out. What they ask you to do wears you out. There's a lot that goes into it. Listen, I tell people all the time, people laugh at me. I could go play a baseball game, one game tomorrow, physically. But if I had to go play a 162-game season with the travel, the media, all the things that go into getting prepared for a major league game in a major league season, there's no way I could do it anymore. And I'm 47, and physically, again, people laugh. You caught for 19 years in the major leagues. You should be beat up. I literally have no problems at all. Now, if you ask my wife, she'll say I'm mentally unstable, but I think that's just kind of standard procedure.
Back to those preachy women. The AJ, knees are good? Your knees are good?
Yeah, I got nothing. Literally, I have no knee problems, no hip problems, which is usually what a lot of catchers have. No back problems. No, I never had a arm problem. So, yeah, I don't know. I was very blessed.
Hey, so you've been retired 7 years, it sounds like, 47. You retired at roughly 40. You said you could go tomorrow and play one game. Does your eye-hand coordination deteriorate? Like, you have to have fast twitch eye-hand to bat. You got to diagnose a pitch. You know, I've read, and I don't know this firsthand. It's the hardest thing in sports. That's what people say. Hitting a baseball, hardest thing in sports. And you could play a game tomorrow. You wouldn't, like, that fast twitch, pitch recognition, eye-hand coordination doesn't deteriorate over 7 years?
Well, listen, I didn't say I played very well. I said I could physically do it. Now, I didn't say I could go back there and catch the game, and I could catch and do that part of it, especially now they catch on one knee. So I'd be like, man, this is like relaxing. I'm on a vacation back here. But hitting, yeah, I would probably need a couple days to see some pitches. I could probably make contact. I'd probably shatter my bat in about 1 million pieces because these dudes throw really hard right now, and I'd probably strike out. But, I mean, yeah, physically, I didn't say I would be good at it. I just said I could do it.
Okay, so watching you on TV, this is why I said I don't know how this will go, because watching you on TV, like, I think you're pretty authentically yourself, you know, and you don't suffer fools. And maybe I'm a fool here, but I don't think I am. I never do. So we'll just go with it. Do you think baseball right now, as we approach opening day, and I'm asking this honestly open, AJ, because I don't know the answer to the question for a couple of reasons. Forgive the long wind up here. Do you think baseball is healthy or sick? And here's what I mean by that. Like, I'm in a bubble. So personally, I can't see straight on baseball right now because I'm a Rangers fan. And like, I have an afterglow, and I was super into the season last year. And so I'm all in on baseball. I read it in the off season. I do hot stove stuff, you know. But if I'm being honest, when the Rangers weren't great, I wasn't attuned to baseball on a day-to-day basis as like a national fan. I read about, you know, the future of television rights, who's going to opt in, maybe who's going to opt out. I don't know. And I just wonder, as a national sport, you know, and that may be the answer, like regional versus, because that's another thing you read about, like in-game ticket sales are actually doing really well for Major League Baseball teams, I believe. But, you know, on the note of the Rangers, their television provider is bankrupt. And it impacted who they could sign in the offseason. They had to bring budgets in after winning the World Series. So it just kind of makes me wonder, what is the health of baseball? Like, what's the status? Is this arrow pointed up or is it pointed down?
Personally, first of all, there's a pitch clock for the long windup, so we need to get you on board with the pitch clock, right? So you can streamline the question before we get into the, you know, this is why they put the pitch clock in to lower the pace of, or speed up the pace of the game and lower the time. So, listen, I think the game is healthy. I think it's healthier than what people want to say. I think if you look at attendance, you look at regional TV ratings, and even national ratings. I work for Fox, and I'm do the game of the week on Saturdays on Fox, and the ratings are good. The thing is that regional baseball is a regional sport played on a national level, right? So if you look at you're a Rangers fan. You look at the Rangers ratings; they're through the roof, right? The attendance is up. I know they won the World Series, but then you go to the Astros and you go to different teams. The ratings are crazy. Even the Rays, who people are like, oh, man, the Rays stink. No one goes to watch them. But you look at their TV ratings, they're really good. So the TV ratings aren't the problem. It's trying to get people to look outside of their region or their team. Like, you're a Rangers fan. And I know in the offseason, listen, on Foul Territory, the YouTube podcast we do, 5 days a week, we talk all the teams. We talk all 30 teams. Well, we have reporters come on. They know their team. They don't know every team in the league. It's just a regional sport. The question is for Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball, how do we make it a national sport? How do we make it more NFL-y? And listen, there's only one game week. It's never going to be that, right? How do you make it more NBA, though, right? And to promote our players more. And that's the one thing I think Major League Baseball has lacked for a long time, promoting their players on a national level. You don't know anything about Mike Trout, do you? He's one of the best players in the game, right? Bryce Harper, he's huge in Philadelphia. You know much about him off the field, right? These NBA guys, you know all kinds of things about him. You know LeBron James, you know Draymond Green, you know Steph Curry, you know these guys on and off the court. Baseball doesn't do that, and it's a problem that starts with the players and the front office, because the players are told, listen, when I came up, 1998, I was first called up to the major leagues. Sit in your locker, don't speak unless spoken to. Well, it's changed now with social media, right? But guys are still afraid to take that next step and put themselves out there. Yes, you see more of it. Yes, you see more guys on social media putting more things out there, and it's great for the game because people become fans of these guys because they're like, oh man, I had a kid that was sick last night, right? I couldn't sleep either. Oh, Freddie Freeman, his son Charlie was sick. Oh, but things like that matters to the fans. And I think we need to do a better job of marketing baseball. But overall, I think baseball is healthy. I think the new rules have helped. They sped up the game. the pitch clock. Now, there's some I don't agree with, like the obstruction thing they're throwing in this year, and some of the bigger bases are kind of funny because they're gigantic. But overall, I think baseball's in a good spot. I think people, and I also think baseball needs to change the narrative. Like like what you said, oh, it's not healthy. Why? Because the bankrupt. Listen, a lot of guys signed a lot of big contracts this offseason. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the positive things. It's always like, oh, woe is baseball. Screw that.
I get that. I don't want to be negative. I don't. This is actually just curiosity driven. I mean, look, I've never been more into baseball. I mean, back to
your
Rangers
fan.
Thing,
Listen,
like,
you should be jumping up and down.
Exactly.
You should be like, yeah,
exactly.
Go Rangers.
I am. Trust me, I am. I'm trying to decide if I should wear my throwback or my City Edition third hat tomorrow or my spring training hat tomorrow, and can I do that on Fox and Friends? But this is a little bit tied to the Rangers. You talked about contracts, so I'm not trying to be negative, but like, why did I see guys like Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell and Cody Bellinger? And I know they're all clients of Scott Boras. I don't know if he was your agent, and it's not about Scott Boras. It's like, it all just came in under expectations. They all signed 1-year deals, and again, it made me wonder, well, what's going on? Like, why is baseball? Those are 3 good players, right? I mean, for a couple of them, you could say great players, and they didn't find the market they wanted to find, and again, led me to the question: well, if the market's not what you expected, is baseball healthy?
Well, first of all, no, I did not have Scott Boras as an agent. So, but I know plenty of people that did. Here's the one thing I noticed this offseason. Every offseason is different. First of all, there were a lot of teams because of the luxury tax trying to get under it. So a lot of teams that normally spend, the Padres in the past, the Mariners, right? Even the Yankees to a smaller extent, and the Red Sox, these are big market teams. And even the Cubs, throw the Cubs in there. They weren't spending the huge amount of money that we have seen in the past. And then the Twins, right? Cutting payroll. The Cardinals didn't spend a ton this offseason. So a lot of these teams that we'd always said, oh man, you can go to the blank, or you can go to the Astros even, right? Even the Rangers, they've spent in the past. This year, they're all trying to kind of get under that, luxury tax, which is like a fake salary cap that all the owners want. So there wasn't a huge market for a lot of these guys. Also, this offseason, if you signed early, you did better. The longer you waited, the less the chance of you getting the big contract. You look at, obviously, Ohtani was going to get what he got, but Yamamoto, right? Frankie Montas of the Reds got $16 million. A lot of the guys that signed early in the offseason did better. Why? I don't know. I can't explain that. But I think as Boras has always had the ability to do a couple things, right? Get his guys contracts and publicize it. And then 2, he's also had direct lines to a lot of these owners late in the offseason and say, he went to the Nationals and say, hey, sign, this guy. Or went to the Phillies and said, say, sign Bryce Harper, the Padres, right? Sign Manny Machado in spring training. Well, a lot of those owners have backed away from doing that, and some of them have moved on. I mean, Peter Seidler in San Diego passed away, RIP, because he was a great owner. But some of these owners have changed their philosophy and are like, oh, you know what? We'll wait. And they got smart, and they're like, we'll wait. We'll get a 1-year deal.
Right.
Why not? Right? Because then you look at the Yankees, right? Everyone's like, oh, sign Blake Snell. Well, with the way the luxury tax is set up, they signed him 1 year, $30 million. That's really like $66 million because it's 110% on top of it, right? So they're like, why would we sign Blake Snell for 1 year and lose a draft pick? It's not going to happen unless we can get a deal for a long term that we agree to. We're not doing it. And smarter owners, smarter front offices, and sign early was kind of the theme of this offseason. Not that they're bad players, but it was just a weird offseason. And sometimes the market doesn't line up for when you're a free agent, Will. I mean, listen, if you're a free agent and you're doing TV and you say, hey, I have Fox, I have CNN, and I have, MSNBC. And guess what? Fox, let's say Fox and CNN aren't signing guys, right? And you're like, well, I have to go to MSNBC. They're offering me $500,000. I really think I'm worth $2 million. Well, guess what? You got to take the $500,000 if you want to do your job.
I don't think MSNBC is going to make me any offer.
Well,
I get the hypothetical.
You know what I'm saying.
ESPN, Fox, I get it. I get the hypothetical. You brought him up. What do you think about Ohtani? I'm not talking about him as a player. What do you think about the story?
It's just an awful story. It's an awful situation. Listen, if he did nothing wrong, which I hope every baseball fan hopes he did nothing wrong, it's just a bad look, right? I mean, if the Ipe guy really did steal all that money from him and he had no idea, it's just bad for the game. It's bad that we're talking about this opening day, and every person wants to know. Every single person I see now is like, what do you think of Ohtani? Did he gamble? Did he do this? Did he know? And I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, there's a federal investigation going on. We're going to find it all out eventually. So I hope it's not true because he is the main draw right now. And I'm glad he did speak. People are like, what, do you think he should have spoke? I'm like, absolutely, because you got to see his reaction. You got to see him live. He got angry about it, which is a good thing. Now, I know people can fake it and all that, but it's hard to go in front of cameras and say, I didn't know this was happening. And my only thing that I keep saying is, we talk about, lottery winners and getting stolen from, man. If someone's stealing 4.5 million from you, though, I'm pretty sure at some point, especially with Ohtani's people, he's got to have CPAs and accountants and agents and all that stuff. At some point, you think somebody would be like, hey, man, where's this money going to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to bait you or push you. I mean, I'm on the record. I've done it on this show. I've done it on other shows. It just doesn't add up. It's just hard. I have a twofold thing here. Like, if he's not betting on baseball, I don't know that I care. Like, I don't care. If he's betting on baseball, that's a different thing. But regardless of how I feel, his story doesn't add up. It's just, it doesn't make sense that the translator, it's all him. Nothing about Ohtani's statements and positions makes any sense.
Hey, I'll be honest. I texted a couple of my friends, and I was like, hey, since we're friends, because, apparently Ohtani gave him access to his bank account. I said, hey, can I have access to your bank account, guys? They're like, why? I'm like, because we're friends, and that's apparently what we do now. So I'll take I'll take access. Thank you, and I'll do what I want. You'll never look, never notice.
All right, let's end with baseball, actual baseball. I want to believe that the Texas Rangers could be one of the first teams. I think it's the first since the Yankees. Would it be 99, 2000 to repeat? And I'm super excited. Like, they're going to be better offensively. And people don't want too much in the weeds of the Texas Rangers. But Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, I'm super excited about what the Rangers are doing. Of course, their pitching is going to be a question. And then there's also this, like, their division and the rest of baseball. Pretty good. The Mariners, the Astros, Braves, of course, and Dodgers. So how do you see this season? And baseball's the weird thing where you're going to probably pretty accurately tell me who has the most wins in the season, but you're going to have a hard time telling me who's going to win the World Series.
You're right, because I forget who I picked. I think I picked Astros and Braves, and obviously the Rangers went and won it against the Diamondbacks, who nobody picked to win anything, right? Listen, here for me, the National League is a little bit clearer than the American League. Braves, Dodgers, obviously, are the super teams in the National League, right? Then you could throw the Phillies are probably going to make the playoffs. I like where the Giants did this offseason. So there's 4 of your 6 playoff teams, right? Then you take the Central winner, Reds, Brewers, Cubs out of that division. Probably one of those teams is making it. So then you have to look and say, is it Diamondbacks, who I really love the Montgomery signing, or is it like a team like the Mets who come out of nowhere? So for me, it'd be the Diamondbacks. The National League is a little more kind of set in stone. But when you get to the American League is when it gets crazy, because you can make a case for about, 8 or 9, 10 different teams in the American League. Now, the Central is probably going to have one team, fine. But you go to the West, you got the Mariners, like you said, your Rangers, the Astros are all good. Who's going to win the division? It came down to the last day last year, right? And then you go to the East, and you have the Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Rays, right? All these teams, the Orioles, who are really good. So you're like, okay, the Red Sox, they didn't do much this offseason, which I don't know why. But so then you're like, it gets more diluted in the American League. Well, who's the best team in the American League? You could say your Rangers when they get Scherzer and Molly and DeGrom back, right? But you could also say the Astros because they've done it. The American League to me is crazy. The National League, I think you can pretty much pick your playoff teams. Now, who's going to win the World Series? I have no freaking clue. I wish I knew because I'd bet on it.
Real quick, AJ, who's the best pitcher you ever faced?
So people, I love this question because people always say, who's the best pitcher ever? Now, are we going off of like people that are in the Hall of Fame or people I couldn't get a hit off of? Because there's a completely different question. Like I faced Pedro, Randy Johnson.
When he took the mound, when he took the mound and you're in the batter's box, you were like, it's a mystery. I got nothing. Okay,
so there's one guy I always tell. His name's B.J. Ryan. He was an all-star. He pitched for the Orioles and the Blue Jays, right? I was 0 for 10 with nine strikeouts off him. And I didn't strike out a lot. And I'll never forget, I was at the All-Star game 2006. It was in Pittsburgh. And he walked into the room. He was on the American League team with me. And I'm like, ah! And he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I can't look you in the eyes. I'll turn to stone because you're like my kryptonite, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm melting just talking to you right now. And he's like, you're so funny. And then my last at bat off him, I hit a ground ball to the pitcher. And I was running to first celebrating. And he's like, you're such an asshole. Sorry, am I allowed to say that on this? And I was like, yeah, I made contact off you. I want the ball. And he just started dying laughing because I just couldn't even put the ball in play.
B.J. Ryan, your Medusa, your kryptonite when it comes to baseball. But World Series champion all-star catcher, Fox Sports, Major League Baseball game analyst, and hell of a guest here on the Will Cain Show. I've loved it, AJ. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again.